day. If not, do understand and get your day, your life is going to get better once your perception gets better. So I was down, I was writing here in my notes, and I tell you guys, I pretty much like I'm always journaling, right? And recently I have been listening to Dr. Joe Dispenza. And one of the things that he talks about is thoughts and how our thoughts and emotions create our reality. And he said most of the time people have the same exact thoughts that they had the day before. And in the morning time when they wake up, they doing the same exact thing as they did the prior day, meaning that they creating more of the past as opposed of creating the future that they desire to live in. And so trust in a process. This is really what this video is about. And for the person that's out there that may feel that you're unworthy, right? That you don't deserve it. And sometimes you may feel like you have to work extremely hard in order for things to go the way you want them to go. And that's something that I had spoke to you guys about before, that I go through these phases where as though I'm challenging the old belief systems, challenging the worthiness, knowing and getting to a place and clarity that I am worthy, right? And not because of anything that I may have done, but just because I was created worthy, right? And oftentimes we tend to have this notion that only if I work hard. So I'm gonna give you guys some examples. I have done like 10,000 videos, right, on my YouTube page and across other platforms. And one of the things that I started looking at was, and it's so funny how you receive all these synchronicities. So one of the things that I started looking at was that although I'm putting the work in, right, and I'm putting all these videos out, I'm dishing all these videos out, I've started seeing and paying attention to more of, oh, I'm not there, right, and feeling that way. And instead of paying attention to what I really desire. And one of the things I had did was, so recently I had invested into this course with Sean Cannell, who is a YouTuber. He has like several YouTube channels. At first I was gonna do this video because I was like, oh my goodness, I really don't want to do this. And then it was a part of me that was like, no, I was getting teary-eyed and I started crying. I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna make the video, right? So here I am. So I was listening to Sean Cannell. I had brought one of his courses, his VRA course, which is for, well, the program you pay it, is like a year program, but you stay connected to the Facebook group, you stay connected to the courses and stuff like that, like you can go back over the courses and stuff. And one of the things that Sean Cannell said was that YouTube is a system, right? Like every platform is a system. And I was having these old thoughts like, all right, my children out of school. I was thinking like, oh, just bring the children with me, to all the Dollar Trees, because when they was in school, I was doing way more Dollar Tree wars. And then I got to a point where, as though this morning, I just was thinking about my life and thinking about, Dina, you're going to have to trust the process, right? And I came up with like visualizations of all the times that I was successful and I didn't work hard, like this one time, and it's so crazy because we can have this chatter going on in our mind telling us, well, just do a little more, right? And that's pretty much the ego, just burn. And then you burn yourself out and you feel like, dang, this is not what I had planned for my life. And I was going back over my life and I was thinking about the time when I had received money from Section 8 from having goals, right? And I just got fired. It was one of those, it was, one of those times in my life where so if everything could have gone wrong, honey, it definitely was going a certain way, right? And oftentimes we say it's going wrong, but in hindsight, it's really going right. And it was so much stuff that was going on. I got fired. It was a few things that was going on. And after that whole incident of me getting fired and everything that was, I had a miscarriage. It was like so many things that was going on. And I like to say a lot of times we tend to have to go through the chaos, right? Tend to go through the storm. And sometimes we don't even understand, like, why am I going through all of these things? And a lot of times it's because there's a blessing. A lot of times it's because that next section of your life, it is going to transform you, is going to bring about something better. It's almost like the butterfly, right? How the butterfly, it is, it gets transformed from the cocoon to the butterfly. And, a lot of times you have to look at your life and say, do I desire something better? Do I desire something different? And when you desire something different, there's going to be times where as though you don't understand what to do. There's going to be times where as though it may look a certain way. And if you feel unworthy, you have to start looking at your life. Like, for instance, I say, like, and I came up with this analysis, like when a baby is born, right? Is not defined as, unworthy, whatever, like, oh, well, the baby is worthy, so let me feed the baby. Like, the baby is worthy just because is here, right? And I think a lot of times in life we have this whole concept, based upon how we was brought up, that, oh, well, in order for me to be worthy, like, I have to do X, Y, and Z. In order for me to be good enough, I have to please my parents. And if I don't please my parents, then, I am deemed unworthy. I am deemed unlovable. And we have this program that goes on in the subconscious mind that plays. And if you don't start taking a look at that, if you don't start addressing it and saying, I'm worthy, Source knew I was worthy, that's why I'm here, right? You will get caught up in this phase of, let me work a little harder, let me do a little more, let me keep on forcing an outcome. And that's one of the things that I started saying was, like, creating content. Now, I absolutely love making content, but I'm going to make content from a place of me being excited, right, to make the content, not like forced to do it because I feel like, oh, well, if I don't do it, then, X, Y, and Z will happen. And right now, that's where I am in my life. And, at first I was like, oh, my children being there to school, how I'm going to make the videos and, all these different things. And one of the things that I said, well, my children, they go to their father house on Thursdays. And so while they at their father house, I can make content. I could upload videos and stuff like that. But I'm going to do it from a place where as though I'm happy, making content, and because I'm choosing to be happy, because I'm choosing thoughts of, of my future, how I plan on seeing myself, how I plan on seeing me and my children's future, and creating from that place as opposed of creating from a scarcity or lack mindset, a mindset that you may feel like you unworthy. So now you trying to force the outcome as opposed of just letting things unravel, right? Taking a step back and letting God do what God needs to do. And understanding that, it's not like, well, I'm not going to show up because God is just going to take the wheel and stuff like that. But I'm speaking to the ones that feel like, well, I have to do everything in order for things to work out. And that's not true. You've been doing everything for so long, and at times you are getting in your own way. The reason being is because you going based upon logic, like what you see. And that was another thing that showed up in my meditation. So nowadays I meditate for an hour long, right? When I first started meditating for an hour, oh my goodness, the chatter was loud. It was like ruthless. And thank goodness for Dr. Joe Dispenza, because I remember listening to one of his videos, and one of the things that he said was, when you meditate for an hour, or even if you meditate for 5 minutes, maybe you never meditated before, there's not a such thing as you getting it wrong, right? There's not a such thing, because I know some people feel like, oh, well, if I sit with myself long enough, like I hear these thoughts, the thoughts telling me that I don't deserve it, like all these different thoughts. And that's what you need to come up. That's what's going to come up, because that's what's in the subconscious mind. And if you don't know, guess what? You're going to keep on doing the same exact thing over and over and over, and hoping and lucking and praying for something new to occur. And nothing new is going to occur. Why? Because you are the same. And so one of the things that I had to start looking at was, am I choosing to be a happy person or a complainer? Am I choosing to look at my life from a scarcity mindset, or am I planning to look at my life from gratitude, right? And those are some of the questions that I asked myself. And maybe you on this journey where as though you feel like things in your life isn't going right. Maybe you feel like, you can't see it. Maybe you feel like the more you do, that it seems like life isn't working in your favor. I am here to tell you it is working in your favor. When the times where as though I had challenges in my life, and it doesn't matter how many books you read, it doesn't matter how much you meditate, you're still going to have challenges, right? But the important thing about challenges is this: you do not have to stay where you are. When a challenge shows up, you have the ability to accept that challenge and say, well, this is the way your life has to be, or you have the ability to say, you know what, there's a better way, because there's always a better way. There's always a different way. And in this here universe, right, we have laws of polarity, whereas though laws of opposite. It may appear to be wrong. It may appear that your life is going down, but what would be the opposite? No, it's going up, right? And one of the things that I absolutely love, and I got this from Neuro Knowledge, he says the reason why you feel like you have fallen is because you really have risen, right? And that's because you are more aware of your life. You are more in tune. Even, in the times where as though you may be going through anxiety, you may be experiencing some depression, right? It is not for you to look at yourself and say, oh my goodness, I'm going through all of this stuff. And maybe you say that, but not for you to stay there, right? You ask yourself, how long do I plan on staying there? And however long you plan on staying there, the choice is yours. But do understand, the longer you stay there, the longer that situation perpetuates itself, the longer that it keeps on going, it keeps on continuing. And the amazing thing about life is awareness, and that's the reason why I study, whether I read the books or I listen to the personal development, I still go through things, okay? And this season in my life is really, really surrendering and coming to a point where as though you can't go based upon the logical mind. And I have said this time and time again. And if you really know something based upon your results, right? Because although I was saying it subconsciously, I was feeling something completely different. And I was just overwhelmed, like overwhelmed with gratitude this morning because when I went over my analytics, right? When I looked at my analytics and I was like, oh my goodness, here it is that I had that subconscious belief that you have to work hard in order to make things move. And one of the things that I started doing was, instead of me paying so much, like, yeah, I'm looking at my analytics, and at times I'm like, all right, Dina, you definitely need to pay attention to your analytics, because how would you be better? How could you get better? How could you produce better quality videos, right? Analytics is results, right? But you don't allow the results to control you. And one of the things that I started doing was, I said to myself, all right, well, every time you want to look at your analytics, you watch a YouTube video that talks about analytics. So YouTube analytics, right? So you can get better. So your view duration, I know I'm probably losing some of you guys, but your view duration and everything goes up. You add more value, right, to the thing that you are currently doing. And I started doing it, and I also been studying YouTube and stuff like that. So it's so funny because there's systems in life, right? Even in the universe, right? Like studying there's, I would like to say, there's systems, there's certain things like universal laws, if you understand universal laws. And it's so funny because we are doing and using universal laws each and every day, but oftentimes we're not even aware of it, right? And that's why sometimes our lives may tend to go in the direction they go, because it's like, there's a book, right? And it's called The Game of Life and How to Play It. And it's by Florence Shen. Absolutely love that book. It's so, so amazing. It's in a prosperity Bible. And I recommended this book so many times to you guys, okay? It's a thick read, but it's so good. And in a book, The Game of Life and How to Play It, is like one book that is one book in many books, right? And so one of the things that Florence Shen talks about, she says that people who think that life is hard, they think that life is a battle. But life is really a game, and you have to know how to play it. So even their systems with life, okay, all right. And sometimes we may be like, systems with life. No, you may feel like some people deserve better, and you may feel like life is after you. You may feel like that there's a black cloud over you. You may feel all these different things. But one of the things that you have to understand and get is that there are systems even in life. And what I mean by that is that life is about giving and receiving, is about what you put out, you get back. Okay. Is about awareness, and that's why I say, whatever emotion you feel, right, is not anything wrong with the emotion per se, but is for you to look at those emotions. Like, why do I think this way? Why do I believe this? Is this the truth? Because a lot of times what the false self, right, the ego, the belief systems, what it will tend to do is it will tell you a bunch of lies. Okay, a bunch of lies, and if you don't question it, right, when you get all those thoughts that, tell you different things, if you don't question it, if you don't take a look at that and say, is this true? Right? Is this the truth? Oftentimes you would see that is not true. That is not true, but it's all according to what you believe. One of the things Dr. Joe Dispenza said that I absolutely love, he said, when you are meditating, right, oftentimes people have this thought, and one of the things he talks about when it comes to meditation, he says you can't go get your phone, you can't, be distracted by the television or anything like that, because now it's just you and you. Now it's just you going into the unknown. You just facing yourself pretty much. And one of the things Dr. Joe Dispenza said was, a lot of times what people often do is when they go into meditation, when they sit with themselves, they hear all this chatter, right? Like all this stuff. You're unworthy, you're not good enough, you're a loser. And when you get up, right? When you get up and you say, you know what? Let me go to the bathroom. Or you know what? Let me just go on social media. It's like you believe it. It's like you believe the chatter, what the chatter is saying, right? And it's so funny because even in my life, it's like, all right, Dina, I came to a point where it's though, all right, you paid for this program. Do you know that you're worthy, right? Do you know that you're worthy of receiving something different, right? And what I seen was, what I was doing was, although I paid for the program to get better, right? To get better results, what I seen I was doing was, I was doing the same exact thing. So instead of me, studying or whatever, like this program that I paid for, instead of me studying it, I would get so caught up in the physical action, right? Let me do more videos. Because and look, when you get the breakthroughs, when you have the aha moments and you are able to see, oh my goodness, that's exactly what I was doing. So what I was doing was, I paid for the program, I paid for the, to learn the systems and stuff like that, the in and outs of YouTube, right? But what I was doing was being connected to the story that, it has to be hard in order for it to work. So then, therefore, I would do all these videos. I would still do the videos. And then I would say, make an excuse. Oh, I don't have time to study, And then it's so funny how everything, are connected to one another. And I remember hearing Sean Cannell, who is over the program, right, for YouTube. Well, his program, he has his own program. But I remember listening to him, and one of the things he said, insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again. And he was like, friend, I get it. And, and he was just doing this video, this pre-recorded video. And he said, I get it that you want to, pump out all the videos. You want to do all the videos and stuff like that. But there's a system. And in life, oftentimes we get caught up on, I'm doing things my way. I'm going to do things my way. And sometimes people don't even know why they do the things that they do. Is because of the programming. And you keep on doing these things and you're like, well, next month is going to be different. Next year is going to be different. And next week is going to be different. And it's never different until you change, until you surrender, until you step into the unknown. Right now, this is like, is unknown for me, right? Like for me to just this study and not produce content, like there's unknown. And when I say just to study and not produce content, I'm talking about like making videos each and every day, right? Just to study and then go back a few days later and make the content, because it's like, oftentimes I'm like, I gotta force it. It has to work. I have to make it work. I have to. And it's like when I'm doing it, I see, oh my goodness, is this really how you want your life to be? Like, do you really trust the process? Because if so, then why do you feel like you gotta force it? And then you hear so many people saying different things like, oh well, you gotta work, right? Hustle culture. And then you hear some people that's like, No, you don't. It's all according to your emotions. It's all according to your energy. It's all according to you paying attention to your future self. And yes, the future is not created yet, but in this here and now moment, echoes into your future. So the decisions that you make right now and here, that echoes into your future. And when you start looking at your life and saying everything is based upon how I'm thinking right now, the emotions that I am feeling, right, that is going to become my reality. And so in life, we all have choices, right? I have the choice where as though I could do something different than what I did yesterday, and see that is this working, right? Like the way I've been doing things. I even was writing stuff down this morning because I am a big, firm believer that you need to go within and write your thoughts, right? The thoughts that's showing up and the emotions and stuff that you feeling. And I got that from Dr. Joe Dispenza. And one of the things that I started seeing was, well, when you was doing things your way, right? Dina's way, was you was it working? Right? And then it's for you to take a look. I had to take a look at it and say, it wasn't working. Okay. It was not working. And that's really, it can be scary, to trust the unknown. It really can be scary. Like the other day, I went and had a picnic by myself. Okay. And I did this before. I want to say one other time last year I did, or was it no, I think 2 years ago. As though I got a download for me to have a picnic by myself. Right. And I remember hearing my intuition say, go to the park and have a picnic by yourself. And honey, when I tell you, I was nervous, I was scared, I didn't know what to expect. Okay. The chatter was very loud and it was telling me things like, oh, it's gonna rain, people gonna be watching you. That's the good one. People gonna be watching you, they gonna be looking at you, oh, you at the park, by yourself and all this other stuff. You're a loser. And that, you know what? Those were some of the things that I used to say when I would see certain people or see anybody, to be frank, at restaurants and they would be by themselves, I would think like, oh my goodness, what a loser. They by themselves, they don't have no friends or anything. And that's what and I never forgot. It was this guy who I went to school with and he became a police officer. And I remember me and one of my friends, my good friends, we had went like on a lunch date. And I had seen the guy who was, my classmate who became a police officer. And he was in this restaurant by himself with a newspaper. And in my mind, I was thinking, oh my goodness, what a loser. Where is his friends at? And he was just so content. He had his newspaper. He was there drinking his coffee or tea or whatever it was, and he was content. He wasn't looking around and stuff like that. He was like really, really content, enjoying life. And I remember, when I was we had a hardware class together. And I remember him in a hardware class. He was funny and stuff like that. And when I seen him at the restaurant, I was like, oh my goodness, And oftentimes you may criticize what you don't understand. You may condemn what you don't know. And those thoughts that I had back then, right? Those thoughts was coming up far as myself, like, oh my goodness, people gonna think you a loser, because those was the ideas that I would look at other people. And so I remember the day, I was packing the stuff up for me to have this picnic, and I was like nervous and stuff like that, like packing the stuff up. And I had sometimes I do videos, right? To accompany me. And I remember I had got to the park. Okay, now it's action time, it's game time. And I got to the park and the chatter was loud. And what do you do in that instant? You retreat, you can retreat, right? Run from it, or you can actually face it. And so I had a watermelon, a big watermelon that wasn't even cut yet. And I was having all these thoughts about that, about the watermelon not being cut, and then I'm gonna have to cut it. All this chatter was going on in my mind. And I remember as I was putting the white sheet, right, on the grass, and I was looking around, make sure nobody looking, right? Looking around. And one of the things that I did, I just said, you know what, I'm just gonna sit, and I had sat down, I felt those emotions. Sometimes you may not want to feel those emotions, but it's those emotions, it's like pushing yourself. How far can I go? How far can I go to see if this is true, right? The chatter true? Is those beliefs, are they true? And I remember I was sitting down, I saw cutting a watermelon and stuff like that. And it was such an amazing event, me getting to know myself, me being by myself. Now, and I still was a little, nervous or whatever, but the fear it started leaving, it started dissipating. And I got up and I was walking around and stuff like, around the water where the park has like this waterfall and stuff. So I was walking and stuff like that. And one of the things I said to myself, this is not as bad as I thought it was, and you may feel like, oh my goodness, this is going to be horrible, when your intuition tell you to do something different, and you don't necessarily, and I don't want to say you don't want to do it, but their programming doesn't want you to do it because, you changing, you becoming something different, you becoming your highest version, you becoming your greatest self. And, that can be scary to go into the unknown. And it's so funny because oftentimes we like, well, I have to know. But in my life, what I understand is the times that I knew exactly what it was that I was doing, it wasn't necessarily working for me, right? Because that means that I'm being the same, right? That means that there's a part where as though I'm going based upon things that I did in my past because I'm like, oh my goodness, well, I have to control it. Like this next time is just gonna be completely different. And a lot of times, majority of the time, it's not. How could it be different? Is never different. Okay. How could it be different if you're the same? Right? How could it be different if you're doing the same exact thing? Right? So that's pretty much where I'm at. Okay. All right. So I wanted to do this. Well, first I was like, oh my goodness, I really don't want to do a video right now. Don't want to talk about this. Don't want to be vulnerable. And then it was a part that I was like, no, I'm gonna do the video, and here I am. So with that being said, I love you guys. Oh Tracy, peace to you, baby, peace to you, peace to you. I seen your art video, the short form that you did with the ladies, the two pictures, and they looked it so good, absolutely amazing, really good. But honey, I'm about to skedaddle. Okay. All right. So I hope you guys or enjoying life. And, don't be hard on yourself. Give yourself some grace. And for whatever emotion that you feeling, sometimes we think that, oh, well, it's wrong for me to react. It's wrong for me to feel anger. It's wrong for me to feel frustration. It's wrong for me to feel upset. No, it's not wrong for you to feel those emotions. When you feel those emotions, is something there. If you condemn yourself for feeling it, or if you hide it, guess what? Then it gets stronger. But if you look at that and you say, well, why do I feel angry right now? For me, what I tend to do, I question it. Like, I get down to the nitty gritty. Like, why do I feel frustration? Oh, I feel frustration because it is. All right. And how does that make you feel? Okay, that makes me feel this way. And then, so I keep on asking myself these questions over and over and over and over again, like breaking it all the way down. And when you break it all the way down, one of the things that you will start noticing is that is not true, right? Like, those thoughts, those ideas, that the force self is telling you, like, oh, well, your life is just going to be horrible, right? And, it goes to the extreme. And when you are able to look at that and say, wait, hold up, I didn't die, right? It gets to that point where, as though you're like, no, it wasn't as bad. Prime example, so at times, and I gotta talk about Dr. Joe Dispenza again, because I remember hearing him. Somebody had asked him a question, and they said, that they always, at nighttime, they say that they are a snacker, right? That they eat snacks, they eat a lot of sweets. And they said they go through these periods where, as though they do this, right? And they said, even though they feel extremely guilty when they eat something that they feel like they should not eat, they still do it. And the guy asked Dr. Joe Dispenza, he said, it's like I'm addicted to the sugar. And Joe Dispenza said, it's not that you addicted to the sugar. What about if you are addicted to the guilt? If you are addicted to the guilt. And, I remember so vividly, so clear, like, I would do certain things and I would see that I was doing them, and I would catch myself at times and I would ask myself, what's going on? Why you feel that way? Why are you doing that? And getting down to the nitty gritty and getting down to that belief system, challenging those thoughts, challenging those ideas that tends to show up. And I remember in his book, The Mystic Path to Cosmic Power by Vernon Howard. And it was this student that Vernon Howard had. And the student said, I hear everything that you're saying, but at times he was saying that he gets angry. And he pretty much was saying, well, isn't it wrong for me to feel anger? And Vernon Howard was like, it's not wrong. But you believe it's wrong. That's why you suppress it. That's why you don't show it, because you suppress it. And anything that you suppress, it creates depression, right? Those emotions that you want to sweep up under the rug, that you don't want people to see. And I'm grateful, for being able to do social media, because I remember at times, I would say, well, who would I share, whatever it was that I'm going through, and to be vulnerable and to let you guys see, I definitely don't have it all figured out. None of us do. And if there's someone out there that's like they have it all figured out, honey, you may want to run from them as fast as you can, because none of us have it all figured out. We figure it out as we go. And for me to have, a platform where so I'm able to express, right? Express myself, my journey, what's going on, and being extremely vulnerable is really priceless, and is oftentimes where so you may not want to talk about what you got going on. You may feel like, well, if somebody else know what I got going on, they're gonna think that you're weak, or they're gonna think that you're crazy, right? That's a big one. You're not wanting people to think that you crazy. And that's a big one with anxiety. People who experience anxiety. I experienced anxiety. It was once upon a time where so I used to feel like, oh my goodness, I don't even want to say the word. But when you are able to say exactly what it is that you are growing through, right? Remember, there's no bad emotion, there's no bad thoughts. It's just the title and the labels that we put on them, right? But it's for us to see, like, all right, how do I feel? Is not for you to feel like, well, my life is just gonna be so perfect, or my life is just going to be like this unrealistic thing. This like this is so unreal, like this thing where so you never have problems, you never problems or illusions, but you never have challenges. And that's not a such thing. That's just not a such thing. Let me tell you something. In this here universe, you're gonna have ups and downs. It's law of rhythm. It's gonna have times where as though you feeling like $1,000,000, and it's gonna be times where as though you feel like 1,000, and that's okay. But you have to ask yourself, do I want to stay there? Do I want to stay there? It's not anything wrong with you feeling anger or frustration or overwhelmed, but it's for you to say, do I want to stay there? And when I see those emotions, when I feel those emotions, when I see how I'm becoming, right, or how I'm being in that moment, right, like yesterday, I have a choice to do something completely different, and to be aware, right? Aware enough to say, you know, do I want to be patient today with my children? Okay. Do I want to not feed in to certain things that they do, right? Do I want to not do I plan on not feeding in, right? Remember, you can't occupy two chairs at one time. So am I going to be a happy parent, okay? Or just a happy person in general? Am I choosing to be happy today? Well, if I'm choosing to be happy today, then I gotta focus, right? I gotta focus. And happiness, I always say it, happiness is a choice. Why? Because you get to choose if you are going to focus on things, right? On focus on, well, I'm happy I woke up this morning. I'm happy I get to smell the roses. I'm happy I get the pause. I'm happy I get the rest. I'm just happy because I choose to be happy. And you ask yourself those questions, and sometimes you're gonna go unconscious. Okay, that's just it. Sometimes you're gonna go unconscious. But when you go unconscious, when you forget, when you see that, oh my goodness, I did it again, right? Now you conscious. Now you able to see, okay, I'm making better choices. I'm making better decisions. And this is an ongoing thing. This is not like, well, I did it once. That's it. I'm not going to do it again because I have everything figured out. This is an ongoing process, And yes, it's scary at times. Yes. I get challenged at times. Old belief systems, they show up. Certain things show up, and what has really helped me was me writing stuff down and going through that and saying, why do you feel this way? Where are those emotions coming from? Where are those thoughts coming from? And going through that, you know, at times it's not, it's so funny how you think you have everything figured out until you see, like, oh my goodness, I gotta go back in, right? I have to go back in. And that's really what it's about. It's about learning, learning yourself, knowing thyself. Because when you know yourself, you know others around you, everybody, right? You can look at a person, you can see exactly why they do what they do, because chances are you have done those things and you can see. And that's really what it's about, for you seeing and you challenging yourself. And I'm going to be the first to say, challenging myself, it feels uncomfortable, really uncomfortable for me to just study, right? And it's so crazy, right? Because although I paid for this program, for me to get better on YouTube, but isn't it so crazy that I paid for the program to get better, but then I have this thing where, as though, like, and it's really trusting the process, trusting the unknown. Whereas though I'm like, oh my goodness, if I don't do a certain amount of videos, like today, tomorrow, for a few days, where's my channel gonna be? And it's so funny because, I went on my analytics, and remember I said that instead of me getting caught up, because, one of the things I would do was I would keep on rewatching my analytics, right? Keep watching my analytics. And I would get so caught up on it and listening to Dr. Joe Dispenza. And I even went to Chat GPT because I said, you know what? Let me go to Chat GPT. And I went to Chat GPT and I said, what does being addicted to frustration looks like? And it says, like, you're doing the same exact thing, like you looking for things to frustrate you. And that's what I was doing. I was addicted to it, looking for things to frustrate me. All right, so let me go on my analytics today. All right, my analytics isn't where my analytics, I feel like they should be better, right? And then I just keep on going, keep on looking, keep on, almost like obsessed with it. It's almost like you a drug addict, right? It's almost like you fiending for frustration, you fiending for guilt, you fiending for unhappiness, you fiending for misery. Like, it's like you fiending for these emotions. And then what I said to myself, I said, and then one of the things, Chat GPT said, and, I said it first, and then I seen on Chat GPT, after I seen the frustration thing, is that instead of you looking at your analytics so many times in a day, pick which days you're going to look at them. And so what I said to myself, I said, all right, if you're looking at your analytics like that, only time you look at your analytics is when you are looking up YouTube analytics to see how you can get better with your analytics, right? Like how you can perform better. And how you can perform better is going to be a demonstration on how your videos could do better, right? And so I started looking at that and I said, all right, so that's what I'm gonna do. And instead of me applying, putting all that energy into, oh, but it ain't working, put the energy into, no, it is working, because now I'm studying. There's a great book, okay, The Richest Man in Babylon, right? This book is so good. And even in this book, so when I say that the universe is always given like synchronicities, there's always synchronicities, there's always like messages, right? In his book, listen to this. I decided that if I was to achieve what I desired, time and study would be required. Now, this book is pertaining to, you saving 10% of your earnings from every paycheck. You investing, you not putting all your eggs in one basket. You diversifying your portfolio, opening up like IRA accounts and stuff like that. So that's what this book is pretty much about, right? And it's really, really a good book. And I remember when, now I read this book, a few times. And, sometimes you could read a book and you're like, that, I don't remember seeing that part in a book. That part, it always was in a book. But because you are in alignment with that part, because that's where you are in your journey, right? With that part of the book, now you can see it. And so when I seen like a part, if I desire to live the life I want, I have to, study. I have to study. And so what I started doing was even this, I got to the habit where so I read this every day. I read this every day. And I read it every day so I could reprogram my subconscious mind. And that's how I've been strong, right? Like, it's been days where though I'm going to the Dollar Tree and I'm like, oh my goodness, temptation is so real. And I said in my videos, but by me reading this and by me watching, people like Budget Mom, who has a phenomenal YouTube channel that talks about budgeting. And by me watching her videos, and that's like my goals for the day. Each and every day is the same. Is Budget Mom, is The Richest Man in Babylon. Study VRA by Sean Cannell, who talks about YouTube and stuff like that. Who has he has a few YouTube channels, and his YouTube channels are over 1 million, right? And one of the things it says in his book is you want to go to people that has the experience. You want to go to people that are where you currently are, they once was there, right? You want to go to those people that has the experience, the insight. You want to go to those. And so reading this book and going and doing something different, am I a little afraid? Me not doing a Dollar Tree haul today? Yeah, I am. It was a part. When I meditated this morning, I was just saying like, the truck is coming today. All these ideas. My children, we could go there, and all these different things was coming up. And sometimes you can make promises to yourself, right? Like I say, I remember when they was in school, I was like, oh, I'm just going to work these days. I'm just going to work these days. And what I seen was I was putting 3 videos out per day, like going to 3 different Dollar Trees, catching a bus, catching a train, and doing all of this. And I'm not saying I'm not grateful for that, right? I'm not saying that I'm not grateful for the hustle. I'm not, I'm thankful for those days. That I was putting those hours in, putting that work in, determined. And it comes to a point where so you like, all right, is there a better way? Right? Is there a better way? And I remember hearing Sean Cannell say, you hear so many different people, and this is why you have to do what works for you. Okay. Because you guys have definitely heard me say, you got to put all the videos out. And then there's times where as though I say, you know what? Put the videos, do what works for you, right? Like you have to do what works for you. But if you see you're not just doing anything, then you also have to know that if you doing the same thing, right? If your thing is, well, I'm gonna just do the same exact thing, then that ain't gonna work, right? So it's like it's like for you to look at your life. Your life is your life, and it's for you to look at your life and say, well, what I've been doing hasn't been working, right? It's for me to look at my life and say that, well, Dina, it hasn't been working. Okay, there's a better route. Not that's the wrong route, but what if there's a better, a quicker, a faster route? What if, right? And I'm so grateful. Like, I'm really, really grateful because I'm just thinking big. Whereas though for that VRA program, when I invested, and I was like, oh my goodness, it was a part of me that was like, man, don't do it. Right. And in that instant, I was like, um, mm, maybe. And then it was a part of me that was like, you've been saying you gonna invest, right? You've been saying, and when I get paid from YouTube, majority of the time I'm investing, whether it's investing in a book, investing into my growth, right? And so in that instant, it was a split second, like a decision I had to make real quick. And then I was like, you know what, I'm doing it. Right. And that's a lot of times how things are. Like the other day, I made a plan to save 10% of my earnings. And, whew, I remember I was on a bus, and I got off the bus, I got on the train, and when I was getting off where I wanted to get off at, I remember the chatter. It was so loud, go spend, go get some chicken, go get some chicken, go get some pizza. They was telling me to go get everything. And in that instant, it's like you got to make a decision quick. And I just heard Dr. Joe Dispenza, and it's like, do you go this way, the old version of yourself, or you go this way, the new version? Do you go this way, the old version of yourself, where as though you operating from scarcity, lack? You have this chatter going on in your mind, this programming that there's never enough, and so you make it not enough, right? You want to live up to that programming, or do you go the new way, the new you? There's enough. There will always be enough. So instead of me making a decision that I made before, right, I'm going to make a better decision. I'm not going to go and order all that food or go to them places because I don't want to deal with my emotions, because I don't want to go and get down to the nitty gritty with myself, right? I'm not gonna go that way. I'm gonna go a different route. And it was uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable, And I remember sitting for the train, and I was on ChatGPT and looking up certain things and stuff like that. Then I started listening to Dr. Joe Dispenza and just sitting with those emotions. Just sitting with those emotions. Where did you get the idea of scarcity? Where did you get the idea of lack? Where did you get those ideas from? Well, you heard it when you was a child, right? And our parents, and I always say, our parents, they did the best that they knew how to do. Right. And you will see that, like, along your journey, you will see I needed to go through that in order for me to become the person that I am. Like, I needed to go through that, right? Hearing that there's not enough, that money don't grow on trees, and all these different things, because now it's for you to go within yourself and see, is that true? You know, is that true what I've been believing? Is that really true? And then you look and you like, that's not true. Okay, so what am I gonna do different? What's the choices, the decisions that I'm going to do different today? And it's not about right or wrong. It's about you just looking, at your life and saying, I'm doing the best that I know how to do, but I know I can do better. I know I can do better. It's not being hard on yourself, beating yourself up because maybe the whole day you watch Teen Wolf. Okay, definitely have my days this week, right? And was feeling guilty about it. The whole day. I done did the work, did the videos, upload and everything, and then practically the rest of the day just was watching Teen Wolf, watching Teen Wolf, right? And then it was a part of me that felt like I deserve this. I could watch Teen Wolf if I want to. You hear so many people saying so many different things. It's for you to take a look at your life and say, this is my life. And I know success leaves clues, and we have heard all of this stuff, but it's about you looking at your life and not running, right? Because sometimes, we could get in the habit of not wanting to face reality. So we look for things to escape the reality, whether it's food, whether it's television, whether it's social media. We look for things to escape the reality, whether it's drinking or whatever it is. We look for things to escape the reality because we feel like the reality is so strong. But reality is an illusion. Is what you keep telling yourself that makes your reality the way it is what you keep telling yourself, is those thoughts, is those emotions, is what you keep on doing. That's what makes your reality. And so, do you have the ability to change from unworthy to knowing that you are worthy? Absolutely. But you have to go through it. You have to go through, where did I get there from? And it's changing your life is not an overnight thing. It's not a fast thing. It's not, well, I don't want to say it's not a fast thing or a slow thing, but is doable, right? It's not hard or easy. It's going to be challenging, definitely, because it's something different. You're going to be afraid. You're going to be nervous. You're not going to know how things are going to turn out. You're not going to understand the process. You're not, right? But that's when you lean on a higher power that's higher than you, right? You lean on God. You know that, and it's so funny because earlier I was like, oh my goodness, the time when I got fired, right? And I earned $10,500 right after I got fired. This was like after everything occurred. And I was like, oh my goodness. The time when I was doing Uber I wasn't working hard at all. It was very, very easy, not working hard at all. Worked a few days, well, a few months. And my tax return, it was the highest that I ever had, when I was working so hard. And so much so that I had asked the accountant. I said, listen, you need to make sure these numbers are right, because I don't want them coming for us, the IRS. Okay. You sure these numbers are right? Because it was like, oh my goodness, I can't. You mean to tell me I didn't work as hard and I'm able to still earn a certain amount? Right. And of course, I did the whole tax thing, whereas though if the accountant made any error, it will fall on up. Right. But there's things in my life where as though I had seen that, no, you just showing up. And I think sometimes we feel like we are behind on things, right? Like, if I don't do this, I'm gonna be behind. And you're not gonna be behind. You're gonna be exactly where you ought to be. And it's something that I go through, but and then I'm having like a aha moment. Like, oh my goodness, I connected to this person because they had an unworthy belief system too. Right. And then I'm connecting to people who don't feel like you have to work so hard. You have to hustle so much. Right. And it's so funny because it's like, you always see the messages, right? You always see the synchronicities. And then you get so caught up. Sometimes you may get caught up and you may try to escape your reality, right? You try to escape your the perception, their self-image, right? So you want to work so hard. But if you believe you're unworthy, it doesn't matter how much, like, you're gonna work so much and you're gonna exhaust yourself, right? You're gonna burn out. And I remember hearing Sean Canu say that, and he said, when he first started doing YouTube, and he said he's seen that the first month, it was good. He said he was recording every day. He said it was amazing. He said, but when he was working and everything, he said, but when he got to the second month, oh my goodness, it was exhausting. It was like, he was like, it was not sustainable, right? It was not sustainable. And one of the things that comes up for me is this. I remember hearing Neuro Knowledge say this. You are to become the person that you desire to be before anything in your life shows you are that. You are showing life, not life showing you, right? And he says, if you are rushing, then that means that you believe it didn't happen. And, I heard Neuro Knowledge say that. And then I heard Dr. Joe Dispenza say the same exact thing. And, different videos, different people. And one of the things Dr. Joe Dispenza says, he said, if you keep on checking, that means you don't believe it's there. And that was another reason why I stopped checking, like the numbers and all this other stuff. I look at them, but not like, there's before I would be, obsessed, with the numbers and all of this and that, and then feeling like, oh, the numbers, I got to create more. It's like get into a statement. So you're like, I got to create. No. You got to be patient. You have to relax. You have to look at why you feel like you have to do this, And one of the things Dr. Joe Dispenza says, he says, if you keep looking for your life to change, that means that you don't believe that your life is changing. And I said, oh my goodness. Now, for the first few days, I was in check-in before, when I did my meditation session, wrote my gratitude journal. Even sometimes before my gratitude journal, I would go on, after my meditation, I would look on my analytics. But nowadays, I don't do that. Nowadays, when I get up, I journaled, did all, my emotions, how I'm feeling today, what's showing up, the person I desire myself to be for today, my intent. And after I did all of that, then I looked on my analytics, and then I got emotional because then I was like, oh my goodness, like the numbers, they are high. And it brought me back to the incidents where as though I was like, oh my goodness, the time where as though I earned $10,500, right? And I didn't work so hard. So it brought me back to those moments. And I was filled with gratitude, like, oh my goodness, that's not true what that chatter be saying. It's not true what, what I've been conditioned to believe. None of that is true. And then I said, I'm going to do a video. And then there was a part of me that was like, nope, don't do no video, right? It's not about giving up on the hustle mentality. I don't think that I would even be able to let me see how to word this. I'm gonna give you guys a prime example. When I first had my spiritual awakening, right? And I got to a point where as though I was surrendering control, right? I started seeing that if I'm trying to control everything in my life, every aspect, where my children, what my children do, and the decisions that they make, let me make their decisions for them, and all these different things, right? And I started surrendering, right? My two oldest children, at this time, they teenagers, and I started letting them make their own decisions because I started understanding that I'm not gonna be there with them every step of the way. And it was at times I would still be a helicopter mom. I would still, interfere and get in a business and stuff like that. And then it was times where as though I will pull back. So it's like you going through this, back and forth stage because it's like, you used to be in a certain way, but then there's a part of you that's like, no, that way don't work. There's a better way, is a better you, and all these different things. So one of the things for me was always about my apartment being a certain type of way. Like, I mean, things had to be on the dresser a certain type of way. From the deodorant, everything had to be according. Everything had to be aligned. Everything had to be, and I would use that because I felt like my outside world, it was chaotic, right? So matter of fact, my inside world, it was chaotic. So what it showed on the outside was chaotic. And so what I would do was I would try to control my house, right? Whether it's the stuff in the house or whether it's the people in the house. And I remember this one day where as though they was about to sell his house. And the guy who owned this property, I remember he had came here and he was like taking pictures because he just purchased the property, and he was taking pictures and everything like that, and it was pillows that was on the floor, right? And I had this moment where as though I was like, oh my goodness, pillows, just pillows, throw pillows, just regular throw pillows that was on the floor. And I had this moment where as though I was like, oh my goodness, I should have picked them pillows up, right? Because you want to look a certain way, you want to control everything, you want to be, you want things to appear that you have everything figured out, you want all of these different things. And that was one of the things that I was a little afraid of. I was like, well, if I let a dish sit in a sink for too long, then that means that I'm gonna become a nasty person, right? Like all these different things. If I let a pillow be on the floor for too long, that means that I'm unorganized, and all these different things was going on. And so I use that story to say this: the hustle mentality. I don't want a hustle mentality, right? Because of, and it puts me in the mind of one of the things that Bob Proctor said was, you don't want to be a go getter. You want to be a go giver. Because if you're a go getter, everything is about pretty much me, 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 right? What can I get? What is it for me? And I'm not saying those things don't matter, but I think when you have more intent, when you operating from intention, right? When you operating from, how I'm showing up today, what can I give today? How could I become better? How could I become a better content creator? I think that is sustainable as opposed to just hustling like all day. And you know what? Everybody journey is different. Everybody journey is going to be different. Some people are going to. It's many people that become viral because they have the hustle mentality because they do a lot. They do a lot. And I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong, but it's for me and for you guys to look at your life and see what serves you, what is beneficial to you. Is it in alignment with what you see for yourself, what you see for your future, what you see for your children's future? Is it in alignment? And that's one of the things that I got caught up. I would take content creator classes, and different ones would say different things. Like Peach McIntyre, she would say, post videos like every day. You should be showing up. Every day you should be showing up. Every day you should be making 50. I remember one time she said 15 videos a day, and I did that. And when she looked at my analytics, she said, "Oh my goodness, you do a lot of videos." And she was like, "You a beast." And then I was like, "But she the one who's had to do all these videos, right?" And what she's saying is not right, is not wrong. Then it's Sean Cannell, who has over 1 million subs on. He have a few YouTube channels, and what he says is about being intentful. I mean, intentional is about doing things that are sustainable. Is about the slow and steady pace as the fast race. He said is about that. And here it is, he has several million YouTube followers on each of his YouTube channels. And so that's why I say it comes to a point where, so you say, who do I listen to? It puts me in the mind of Kevin Tredone. And one of the things Kevin Tredone talks about, and he was a part of the Brotherhood, right? The secret society, the Illuminati, you people, you hear people say. And he always say is about, you listen to the people who have what you desire, but are where you currently are, they once was there. You listen to the people that you see their life and you say, do I want my life like this? That's what you listen to. And the people who have the results, the people who, they show you exactly. I mean, you can see the results on YouTube, especially. You can see the results. And you listen to those people. But ultimately, you listen to yourself. You listen to your intuition. You listen to that part of you that say, you doing, take a break, take a rest. You listen to that part of you that says, go a different route. You listen to that part of you that says, do something different. You listen to that part of you that says, go to the park, have that picnic by yourself. You listen to that ultimately. But there's people that have the things that you may desire, and you go within and you listen to that. Do this feel right to me? Do this person, do they do it feel right to me? You use your discernment. So I definitely didn't think, it's so funny with the OCD because, I always say I'm no title, no label. And some people may say you ain't no, right, because you like things to be a certain type of way. And what I prime example, the other day, it was a trash bag in a garbage. Trash wasn't filled. It wasn't filled up or anything. But I have this thing where, so I want to take the trash out every day, every night, right? And I remember that night I woke up, I think it was like 4 o'clock. Well, that morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, I woke up. Something just woke me up. And I got up and I came in the kitchen and I didn't take the trash out, right? And it was a part of me that was like, all right, you could take the trash out now. And then I was watching Teen Wolf. Right? I was watching Teen Wolf, and then like 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning, I took the trash out, and I was like, "Did you die?" right? Like, and I say that, you may laugh, but I said to myself, did you die from you having the trash like in a garbage can? You didn't take it out, like was there an emergency? Like, what is the emergency, right? And I was meditating after that for an hour, and oh my goodness, I mean the emotions. Um, and then I had an image of my children, full of gratitude, and I just started crying, crying so much. And so I know a lot of times it's for us to look at certain things and say, why do I operate this way? You know, like, why do I feel, and then sometimes you may miss certain things, and you may think that, oh my goodness, the chatter may be so loud. Oh, you gonna be just a nasty person because you didn't pick a pillow up off the floor. And perhaps suppose is if that you not picking a pillow up off the floor, suppose that can be a metaphor for you surrendering, you know? Now, I'm not saying, you do what works for you, but suppose that. So suppose that you wanting everything to be, or you wanting to be in control of every aspect in your life, that in all actuality, you really out of control. And suppose by you not picking that pillow up off the floor, suppose you taking a rest, you taking a breather, suppose you leaving a cup or a plate in the sink. Suppose you did that for a few minutes, right? Suppose that would be a signal of I'm surrendering. I'm giving up the control, because the only thing in actuality that you have control over is just your perception. That's it. Everything else, you don't have control over people, places, things. You don't have control of anything. You don't have control over what's going, to at times, even times things show up in your life. You can be doing everything so right? Everything what we tend to call right, following the laws of the universe and stuff like that. And something can show up. Only thing you have control over is your perception. How do you view things? How do you see things? That's it. That's it. And if you so controlling over certain things, I've definitely heard this in my relationships, that I was controlling. If I'm controlling in my house about the pillow need to be exact certain way, everything has to be perfect. How you think you showing up in your relationships? You showing up in those relationships as controlling as well. And it's for you to see, do I want to be that version? Do I want to be that past self? Do I want to continuously be that person, the best videos that do the best on my channel, the ones where as though I'm vulnerable, the ones when I step into the unknown. The video I did when I first came back and did my first Dollar Tree haul. What was it? Last was it Friday? Yeah, I think Friday. No, Thursday. One of those days. And I did that not Thursday, Friday. Oh my goodness. Definitely was a little nervous. Okay. In that Dollar Tree haul. But what I did was I made a decision, right? I'm going to be intentful. How do I want to show up when I do the Dollar Tree haul? How am I showing up today? What am I doing? What am I focusing on? What am I paying attention to? And that video, the first day, it had like 2,000 and something. And then it went to 3,000, and that's when I do my absolutely best, when I don't know, when I step into the unknown, when I'm a little afraid, When I have no, like right now, earlier when I said, you know what, don't do, it was a part of me do a video, and I was like, I don't want to do that video. I don't want to do the video. Why? Because unknown. How I'ma look on camera, all these different thoughts going on. How I'ma look on camera. What you gonna do when your children wake up? What's the day is looking like? Not being in the present moment. Just the mind is just going. And then it was a part of me that was like, just do the video. Face the unknown. You don't know exactly how it's gonna look, but so what? And here I am. Okay. So I'll catch you guys on the next one. Keep rocking out, believing in yourselves, keep on going and growing. Another thing, a lot of times we get caught up in this whole concept of, well, I'm a Virgo. That's why I'm like this. We get caught up in astrology, my moon sign and all these different things. And I'm not saying it doesn't have anything, perhaps I guess to do with anything. But I think when we make excuses or justifications like why we are the way we are, that's what keeps us there. So if I say, oh, I'm a Virgo and that's why I'm tidy and I'm all of these things and I'm all of that, I don't think that's like, because I've seen some Virgos that's not like me. Okay, to be honest, I went to a Virgo house, okay, and they house, that Virgo who came to my house. I remember when we lived at my old apartment, me and my two oldest children, it was just us three at the time. She said, this Virgo said, Dina, was you in the military? And I was like, no. And I said, why? She said, because the way your beds are made up, right? So saying that I'm a Virgo and all these different things, that to me, I don't think there's really, what it is. I think, you can use it as an excuse and say, well, I'm a Virgo. That's why I'm the way I am. Or, I'm like putting yourself in this box. Well, all Virgos do this. All of us do this. All these different things no, it's not about what all Virgos do or what all Black people or all white people do. It's about what you do. And it's about what you're doing. Is it working? Not if it's right or wrong. Is it working for you? That's what it's about. Not my zodiac sign, all these different things that we tend to use and make excuses and say, oh, it's because of this, it's because of that. No, it's because and also if we say that, right, that's what's gonna shape, that's what's gonna be. Like a belief, truth is what you believe to be true, right? And so if I say, like my oldest son, he called me, and you guys seen the video that me and him had done when it came to relationships, right? If you haven't seen that video, it's definitely on my YouTube page, right? On here. And he has this concept that all women are cheaters, right? So last night he called me, and it's so funny because he started talking to these females, and subconsciously he has this program playing in the back of his mind that all women are cheaters. All women are cheaters, right? And oftentimes what you tend to say, well, all other people are, sometimes you may be there. But he was saying that all women are cheaters. So last night he called me, and man was on the phone, and he was saying like, oh, is it okay for the girl who he's talking to? He said, is it okay for her to have male friends? And I told him, I said, yeah, it's okay for her to have male friends. And he says, that is not okay. So I said, you have this construct that all women are cheaters. Why are you looking to get in a relationship? Because what you believe that's what you are going to have tunnel vision on. Meaning that if he believe all women are cheaters, the subconscious mind is going to have him connect with all women that are cheaters. It's just, that's his truth. He believe it. Okay. And no matter how much I tell him that is not true, he make the videos, and his videos, they do phenomenal. He have like over 50 something thousand followers on TikTok. Have over, I think, is it 15,000 on Instagram. He just started that Instagram page. He do very good with numbers, very, very good with the numbers. And he believed that all women are cheaters. So he posts those videos and he gets excited about those videos. But one of the things that I told him, I said, you post those videos, you get excited about those videos, but that's your truth. You believe that. You believe that all women are cheaters. And so the females that you are attracting, they are cheaters. Why? Because you believe that. If you believe that all men are dogs and you like, oh, but I want a healthy relationship, you're going to pass by it. It's going to pass by you, right? Like you could come across a good man and you may think like, well, all of them are dogs. And this guy may be loving, he may be kind, in his masculine energy, and know how to operate as feminine energy, but more so masculine because he's a man, and a provider, a protector, a leader, all these things, right? And because you have this concept, because you didn't get over your emotional traumas or what occurred to you in your childhood, because you didn't face those things, because you don't want to forgive your father or your mother, because you have this relationship with your parents, you don't want to forgive that. And so you think that all men are dogs, all men are cheaters, or all female are cheaters. And you can't get something that you're not. So the universe is going to give you what you are. If that's what you believe, that's what you get. If I believe that I have to work so hard in order for me to become successful, it's not until now, listen to this. This is the crazy part, right? And oftentimes we can say, oh, because my parents, I remember sweeping a rug 20 times a day, right? But you're an adult now. And you make a choice, you make a decision. Do I want to keep on with that belief system? And it can get to the point where so you feel burnt out, you feel frustrated. It's for you to look at that. Oh my goodness, this is really how I want my life to be? Or do I desire something better and different? And then when you say you desire something better and different, and you make a decision, you make a choice that I am going to do something different, I am going to do something better because I don't want to feel the way I'm feeling right now. I desire my life to be completely changed. And let me tell you something, it's the scariest thing ever. You're going to go through the phases of you being uncomfortable. You are going to go through withdrawal. The withdrawal. You will go through that from those emotions, complaining, right? You feeling a need to complain because when you complain, it's like, all right, well, I'm going to be in control. If I complain, if I make them do this and do that and do that, it's because you're looking for control. You addicted to complaining as opposed to being addicted to happiness. How would your future self? Would it be a happy person? And I'm not saying that you can't be, a successful person and because you could be a successful and miserable. It's all according to how you want your life to be. Not looking at no one else's life and saying, well, their life is this way, and that's why Kevin Tredone say what he say. He say, that's why Kevin Tredone says what he say. He say, wait. That's why Kevin Tredone says what he say. He said, you know, who do you listen to? You know, who do you listen to? There's people that has millions of subscribers, right? On social media. But do I want my life to be like theirs? You know, who do you listen to? And that's what you have to constantly ask yourself. You know, in this book, The Richest Man in Babylon, one of the things the author says, he says, well, not the author, one of the characters in the book, he says, advice is often given so freely. But who advice do you take? There's people that gives so much advice, and it could be good advice, but do you take that? You look at their life and you say, do I want my life like theirs? So, all right, definitely getting off here. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Rock out. Keep on going, keep on growing. Don't be hard on yourself. Give yourself grace. Understand that you have the ability to change your life. And I really mean change your life. Like, I know it's gonna seem like it's undoable. You're gonna hear that voice that's saying, what's the use to do this? You know, you tried to save money before, it didn't work out. You tried to do that diet before, it didn't work out. You tried to do all these different things before, it didn't work out. So what? It didn't work out. It didn't work out that time, okay? But it's gonna work out this time. And you may slip. You may slip. You may go unconscious. You may, right? You may forget. But it's about you remembering. Do I want to be the future version of myself, or do I want to be the past version? And you have that choice. That's your choice to make. No one else's. You know, do I want to be intentional? How am I going to be today? Fun, loving, right? Energetic, kind, peaceful. And you may go back and complain, but that's okay. As long as you are able to see it. I did it again. Okay. The next opportunity, it's so fun. I was doing a meditation the other day, and I just was laughing in a meditation because, you know, at times you can have everything. Like, you're like, all right, I'm going to be this way. Everything going to be so. And something happens, honey, and you, listen, it goes out the window. You know, you say, I'm not going to complain, honey, you complaining, you doing all these things. And that's okay. But when do you remember? All right, well, I'm being this way today. All right, I complained. Okay. Don't hold yourself hostage. Don't hold your past hostage to your future. Don't hold it hostage. Don't keep on saying, all right, well, you know, keep on reliving. Well, I did that yesterday. All right, that was yesterday. Today is a brand new spanking day. What you gonna do today different? What are you going to do today that is different? The best times in my life has been the unknown. But there's times that the unknown, although those are the best times in my life, there's times where as though it's so scary. Like it is the best time, but it's this most scariest time because now it's like, I don't know what to expect. But I know that I can expect something different because I'm different. I'm doing something different. Am I afraid? Yes. You know? But do I do something different? Yes. You know, and some people have this misconception. Oh, well, you know, well, if you believe in God, you're not supposed to feel fear. Who said that? You're going to experience fear. If you stepping into the unknown, you're going to experience that. But it's for you to have a belief to know that God got me. I may be a little afraid. Like when I was like, all right, I'm not doing that video today. I'm not showing up on here. Right. And then I was like, in that instant, start the video. Start, you ain't looking directly at yourself anyway. You're looking up here, right? You ain't looking at yourself. And so I just started the video. So you're going to experience those emotions. If anybody tell you, well, you believe in God, but you're not supposed to experience fear, all these different things, is no, you experience the fear and know that God works through you. So even if you feel like, oh, well, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it. No, you do it. Because why? Because God works through you. God don't work for you. God works through you. So definitely catch you guys on the next one. Peace.